Nuclear Armageddon is a 1985 war game of 3 to 5 players played on a world map game board. Although the object of the game is to be the only player left on the board, the game encourages players to conquer large areas, build empires, manipulate up-to-date military equipment, and enter into political conspiracies with each other that are similar to those going on in the then present-day world of the Cold War 1980s. The 32.00-inch by 48.00-inch plastic game board consists of 55 water areas and 50 countries divided into 7 groups or regions. Each player is provided with plastic playing pieces consisting of 60 cities, 12 jet aircraft, 12 tanks, 6 nuclear power plants with cooling towers, 9 oil derricks, 3 Trident submarines, 3 New Jersey-class battleships, 3 Nimitz-class nuclear aircraft carriers, 5 small No. 2 Silver missiles, 4 large No. 5 Gold missiles, and 1 black Infinity missile that looks like an old-fashioned Fat Man atomic bomb. Also provided are 9 custom-made black dice, 5 chopping blocks for keeping track of dice rolls, 56 colored and numbered chips, 1 for each country and 6 wildcards, a chip value counter, 5 extra turn chips, 75 miniature plastic mushroom clouds for marking hydrogen bombs, 50 Act of God cards, and a rule book. Turn order is determined by relative game position. Dice are used for resolving attacks and have symbols on them instead of numbers. Whenever you roll mushroom clouds on all dice, you draw an Act of God card, which can add and destroys pieces or change other factors. The most attractive part of the game is the custom-made Plaster mushroom clouds, 75 of which are included with the basic set, to keep the game's name true to meaning. Available expansion kits include cruise missiles, No. 8 missiles, air transports, capitals, spies, and dictators. There are also custom-made war room sets, and intermediate sets with standard cardboard counterpieces available. Pieces of the game and player part sets were all individually available, and customer-specified custom colors for playing pieces were offered as well. Reviews.
I'm really not a fan of the world-armed conflict control territory and roll dice genre of games. That said, the end game of Nuclear Armageddon is a welcome improvement. Nuking out territories and removing them from play does help speed things up, but not enough for me.
Just a great game. We have a double set of pieces for 6 players, including many additional mushroom clouds. Lots of fun. A lengthy game though. Need to pull a long day for this one.
Early version with painted cast plaster pieces. Did they actually make a plastic version? Plaster mushroom clouds? Amazing. Nuking nuclear power plants is very bad.
Simple Axis and Allies game type fun with a bit of nuclear destruction thrown in.
I played this game extensively in the late 1980s. A shipmate, U.S. Navy of mine, owned it. He brought it along on a 6-month cruise in the Mediterranean Ocean. It is a phenomenal game. What I found most interesting is how the game would stay in conventional warfare until one person bought a nuclear missile. After that, everyone went nuclear on their very next turn. The Act of God cards are really what made the game stand out. The version we played came in a tube and had plaster game pieces painted with iridescent paint. It was impressive under a black light. I have been looking for this game off and on for 10+ years now. This is the first time I've been able to find any reference to it.
Gameplay pictures. The board with just a few units, and scattered mushroom clouds. The missiles, oil derricks and nuclear plants in each color, plastic pieces, an infinity missile, some flat and 3D plaster mushroom clouds and a die. The distinctly different types of tanks and cities in each color, plastic pieces. The 3D plaster mushroom clouds that make the game what it is. Advertisement from Game News Issue 10, December 1985. Hydrogen bombs, miniature nuclear explosions for use with supremacy, Nuclear Armageddon, Nuclear Axis, and Allies or Nuclear Risk, 5 for $3, 25 for $10. Forum thread, plaster before plastic, and did they really?
I have one of the early copies. It came in a black tube bigger than a law rocket launcher. The cap doubled as the chip value counter with a dial on it. The pieces were painted molded plaster. That's right, plaster. The whole thing, cities, tanks, battleships, carriers, planes, nuclear plants, missiles, everything. Even the mushroom clouds. In fact, the designer once cheerfully demonstrated to me that the plaster mushroom clouds produce their own fallout. Simply rub a finger over the top, trail it across the black map, and presto, particulate fallout. Wow. The designer-producer, C Reichert, said he was working on an injection-molded set of pieces. Lost contact with him, and don't know if he ever did it. Does someone out there really have a set with plastic components? There was mention of expansion sets. The special dice even had a dictator face that served no purpose in the basic game, but I've never actually seen one. Does anyone know if these ever appeared? My version cost $135 in the late 1970s. I'm still trying to figure out where I came up with the money for what amounts to a giant nuclear risk variant with rules allowing the transmutation of pieces. See the rules, the old missile from nowhere trick. Almost worth it though, for the doomsday black humor throughout the rules and cards.
For some reason, this game struck a chord with my brother and his friends in the 80s. They were in their mid-teens at the time. Because of this, there are at least 3 copies of the game that I know of in Gettysburg as I write this. I have Matt's old Plaster copy that stood up well to rolling around in my trunk for at least 6 months, although the amount of plaster that poofed out of the tube when it was opened was impressive. I think at least one of the copies floating around has the newer plastic pieces, and I know for sure that some of the expansions are around. I'm planning on bringing a copy to Origins to play this year.
Yep, I do indeed own the plastic piece component sets myself with my game. It looks like most of the parts were done in plastic from the same plaster molds. From what I remember or can guess, as I haven't seen a plaster set up close since the 80s, and I'm just going off what I can make out here. A few of the parts, notably the tanks, look like they come from 2 or 3 different molds, but the power plants with cooling towers are all new in the plastic version, and quite an impressive piece, I have to say. The bomb clouds, of course, are still plaster, and all of the rest of the components down to the tube and counter are still the same. I'll post some pics of them soon.
Oh my god. I was one of the guys that helped develop that game with Rex. The first pieces were indeed made from plaster of Paris. I made many myself. Yes, the plastic that came afterwards was actually a resin poured into rubber molds. A set of metal molds were on their way from some East Bloc country, but I didn't get to see them before I left Pennsylvania. I still have my set in a large Army howitzer canister. I designed the battleship.
Wow, I can't tell you how cool it is to see a post from someone who was involved in the creation of that game. The battleship is definitely one of the slickest pieces in the game, and I have honestly admired it on many occasions. I went to a small gaming convention in 1987 or 88 called Organized Confusion, I think, run by Mayor Foner of M. Foner's Games Only Emporium of Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. Can't remember exactly where the convention was, maybe it was in Westminster, Maryland. It was held in one big room, but not that big. There were maybe 15 or 20 tables, tops. We got there kinda early. There weren't too many people around, although most tables had already been loaded with stuff. It was me and 2 friends of mine. We hadn't registered for anything and didn't know what to get into. In the middle of the room was a table labeled Nuclear Armageddon, empty of pieces or people. I remember wondering what the hell that was all about. Everyone else was all set up already, but there wasn't a hint of what kind of game this was. Anyway, after a while a gray-haired, ponytailed dude with a mustache and glasses came in, toting a huge plastic bucket and an armload of crap. I was standing in a position to get a glimpse, and the bucket proved to be full of little orange, yellow, and white thingies. I asked him, "What are those?" And he goes, "Mushroom clouds." Me and my friends looked at one another and sat down. The guy was C Reichert, and we had an amazing time getting schooled by the master. And he loved the game, you could tell, everything about it. He pointed out with a kind of gleeful pride that you could clean the laminated, rubberized plastic board with Pledge. I'm pretty sure he demonstrated the fallout factor of the mushroom clouds too. He gave me one to take home with me. Axis and Allies pales by comparison, and no other days of gaming exceeded the joy I experienced playing that game. There is nothing like the smell that comes out of that tube when you pop the top off, and a fine cloud of plaster dust thumps out. I love that game. By the time my friends got around to buying the game, the pieces were in fact plastic. So where the hell is C Reichert now anyway? And can you still get a War Room edition of the game? In the original catalog it was $5,000. I could think of fewer more glorious ways to blow that much money, even if it's not going to happen anytime soon.
6 years later.
Flipping through the channels at a friend's place tonight, America's Most Wanted was on, and mentioned that the featured felon had created nuclear Armageddon. I wondered if it'd show up on here, and lo and behold it did. If anyone has any info on Rex Reichert, you should probably contact authorities. Link to America's Most Wanted.
Rex C. Reichert, hunt continues for alleged child molester. Time doesn't diminish the crime, so federal and state investigators in Pennsylvania remain on the hunt for Rex C. Reichert, an accused child molester who fled to avoid prosecution in the early 1990s. Reichert allegedly abused 2 boys, ages 10 and 14, in his apartment in Collegeville, Pennsylvania, over a 2-year period. The boys had been entrusted to Reichert's care, while a relative was receiving medical treatment. They also visited him on weekends and accompanied him on camping trips. On September 28, 1990, Reichert was charged with criminal attempt with intent to commit the crime of involuntary deviant sexual intercourse, criminal solicitation with the intent of promoting or facilitating the commissions of the crime of involuntary sexual intercourse, indecent assault, corruption of a minor, and endangering the welfare of children. A state warrant was issued for his arrest. On March 31, 1992, a federal warrant was obtained for Reichert after he was charged with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Authorities followed up on leads in Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, Canada, and Europe, but the trail ran cold. The FBI recently released several age-enhanced photos of Reichert based on pictures taken in 1963 and 1984. Reichert's been known to wear wire-rimmed glasses and have his hair in a ponytail. He's savvy with electronics, has been employed as a technician in a recording studio, operated an amusement arcade, and even invented a board game called Nuclear Armageddon that was sold commercially. If you have any information regarding the whereabouts of Rex Reichert, call our hotline right away at 1-800-CRIME-TV. Wanted for criminal attempt with intent to commit the crime of involuntary deviant sexual intercourse, PA, September 28, 1990. Corruption of a minor, PA, September 28, 1990. Indecent assault, PA, September 28, 1990. Endangering the welfare of children, PA, September 28, 1990. Information valid as of March 22, 2012. Wanted by the FBI, Rex C. Reichert, unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, criminal attempt with intent to commit the crime of involuntary deviant sexual intercourse, criminal solicitation, with the intent of promoting or facilitating the commissions of the crime of involuntary sexual intercourse, indecent assault, corruption of a minor, endangering the welfare of children. Dates of birth used: September 16, 1945. Place of birth: Ohio. Hair, gray. Eyes, gray. Height, 5 feet 10 inches. Weight, 150 pounds. Sex, male. Race, white. Occupation: Reichert has been employed as a technician in a recording studio. He also has operated an amusement arcade and invented a board game that was sold commercially. Nationality: American. Scars and marks: none known. NCIC W687345809. Reward: the FBI is offering a reward for information leading to the arrest of Rex C. Reichert. Remarks: Reichert is skilled in electronics, specifically musical equipment. He has been known to wear wire-rimmed glasses and have his hair in a ponytail. Reichert may travel to Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, Canada, and Europe. Caution: Rex C. Reichert is wanted for the alleged sexual abuse of 2 juvenile males, ages 14 and 10, over a 2-year period at his apartment in Collegeville, Pennsylvania. Reichert had cared for the boys while a relative was receiving medical treatment. The boys also visited him on weekends and accompanied him on camping trips. On September 28, 1990, Reichert was charged with criminal attempt with intent to commit the crime of involuntary deviant sexual intercourse, criminal solicitation with the intent of promoting or facilitating the commissions of the crime of involuntary sexual intercourse, indecent assault, corruption of a minor, and endangering the welfare of children by the Collegeville Police Department, Collegeville, Pennsylvania, and a state warrant was issued for his arrest. On March 31, 1992, a federal arrest warrant was obtained for Reichert, after he was charged with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution in the United States District Court, Eastern District of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. If you have any information concerning this person, please contact your local FBI office or the nearest American embassy or consulate. Field Office, Philadelphia. Rex Reichert, overseeing a game at Origins, 1984. Disclaimer: Nuclear Armageddon was created by two people, the aforementioned Rex Reichert, but also Ronald L. Allenbach. Allenbach was not part of Reichert's criminal past, and should not be confused with Reichert. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more.